So chances are, if you've got Guilty Gear, you have loaded the game up and you have promptly skipped tutorial mode because everyone's told you to do it, so you avoided it purposely, and you've gone straight into training mode and you're looking at a plethora of characters, all of which you don't understand and all of which are probably a bit too hard to play. So we're here to guide you today. We're going to walk through some of the easiest characters, and I am joined by C4IQ of Situational Damage fame. What are you saying, man?
I'm hopefully going to say a lot. This is close to my heart, obviously, Guilty Gear.
Yes.
And I want people to play it. So I think this is a good idea to do, to give people sort of like a foundation on how to get into the game. Because like you said, like looking at the character select screen and like looking at high level play in that, it's just madness.
It is. It really is. Like you're watching a video of someone play it and nothing will make sense. But it's not as bad as you think it is.
It's definitely not.
Say. It's really not that bad. So I guess I'll preface this a little bit. You don't have to go by this. Like, I play Dizzy because she's fun to dash with. Like, that's literally the only reason I play her. And Mace, correct me if I'm wrong, you play Leo because he's an arsehole, right?
Yeah, I'm one of those really bad fighting game players that pick characters on aspects. So yeah. I looked at Leo and I was like, he's the closest thing to a Super Saiyan. I'm going to pick him. But luckily enough, he suits my playstyle with really easy execution and really bare bones basic stuff. This is my cross up. Can you block it?
Exactly. So yeah, really, you don't have to follow this. You can just pick whoever you like and eventually you will learn them. The whole point of this is to basically give you some characters that will be simple enough in terms of like their game plan, that you can start to learn the more universal mechanics and the actual game at large, rather than just focusing on, say, Eddie, for example, who has loads of really specific things that are only relevant to him, that maybe if later down the line you don't find that you like him at a higher level, they won't necessarily apply to others. So yeah, hopefully this will kind of give you a little bit of a start-off point. So I think the best place to start here would be with Sin, right? Fundamentally, he's a character with very good normals and specials that essentially cancel into themselves. You can chain in Street Fighter examples, it would be Ryu doing a fireball into a DP. It's a special into a special. And what allows him to do this is he has a food meter. And this is just an extra meter such as your tension or your EX meter, that it allows you to do these specials. Every time you actually do a special, it will spend it. And this basically means that he can keep you in block stun indefinitely. But then he has to eat food to get that meter back. So it is a balancing act, but this character is incredibly fundamental.
If I had to compare him to like a Street Fighter 5 character, it would definitely be, imagine Bison V-triggered all the time. And every special you went into was safe.
Yeah,
that's basically the character, and he does immense amounts of damage. Like of any special, if you've got the meter, you can easily take 50 plus damage. For execution wise, it's not that hard. Like, I'm probably a very good gauge when it comes to execution, and I did it within like a couple of minutes. So you can get really flashy with him as well. He's quite an open character where you can learn the max damage and the B&B, but you might want to go for something that gives you more tension, something that kind of allows you to keep more calories, which is used to obviously cancel specials and specials. So you can be really versatile with him, which is really cool. But his ultimate game plan is to basically touch you with one of his specials, which are safe, and take off half your health.
Yeah, and it is really, really simple sort of stuff. You are using very long normals and very long specials just to hit them when they're trying to come at you, or to catch them out of position or off guard. So yeah, very, very highly recommended as your first character in your entry to the game.
Definitely.
So next one is Leo, and this is your speciality, so I'll let you take it away with this one.
Yeah, with Leo, I'm not scared to say that my character is pretty easy mode. When it comes to stuff like conversions and execution, I would say he's probably one of the easiest characters, if not the easiest. There's very few scenarios where you have to sort of alter your combos if they're like airborne or sizes, how they fall, all that sort of stuff is pretty simple. It's basically wreckers. There's not much else to it. And his mix-ups, like I said, are really bare bones. There's no mystery to it. This is a cross-up. This hits you in front. I've got reversal. And I've got booms. Well, I've got sonic booms. One's really fast, one's really slow.
Yeah, it's very Street Fighter.
Yeah.
It's like a Guile, but then you add a bit of Wolverine in there, basically.
Yeah, a very toned down version of Wolverine, I will say that. I mean, people, you won't ever hear anything good about Leo. He's really derpy, but a lot of his stuff is unsafe. When you play players at intermediate level, they will expose you and show you that, no, you can't do that. Like, you might be able to get away with it on certain players because they're scared. So at beginner level, Leo's going to be really fun because you're going to think that you're a genius and you're opening everyone up. When you get to intermediate sort of level, then you're going to have to start being creative and work on players' patterns and their tendencies.
So moving on to the next character, we have Ky on our list of easy characters. And Ky is the character that everyone says you should be playing because he is the closest thing you have to a Shoto, so to speak. He has a fireball, a DP, a command overhead, and that's kind of all you really need to know. Although on the surface it seems you'll try and approach him like a Ryu, it's not really like that. He does have good zoning tools, he has good normals, and he has very good mix-ups, which are going to be a little bit harder for a new player to set up, but not incredibly hard. With a little bit of training you'll get it. The way I think about Ky is he's almost not Ryu, but he's Daigo's Ryu. And to elaborate a little bit, you'll know if you've ever watched Daigo play Ryu, he will play very close to you, but just out of your range, and he'll throw a fireball and he will be in your face and it will kill you. Ky actually works like that quite fundamentally. He has a fireball that's incredibly quick that he can, FADC or the equivalent of, and then hit you with a massive combo. So he plays like a good Ryu, not necessarily a bad one. It's very bizarre, but you'll see as you play him, like, you're going to be playing at very specific ranges versus characters. And that's a really good thing as a beginner, is to learn those ranges where the other character is effective and you're trying to stay out of them. So it actually can be very helpful, but you just have to kind of try not to get too much of that Ryu instinct into your head.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. When I started playing Guilty Gear, this has been my first one, Xrd. After 3 months of using Leo, I felt like I wasn't playing the game, I was just playing Leo, so I started to use Ky. And Ky's a good character to kind of learn the pace of the game, because some of the characters that we're going to go down the list are restricted in their movement. Ky's movement is basically the bar for all other characters. Like, you're either slower than Ky or you're faster than Ky. Ky can run, he's got a double jump, and he's really good at screen control as well. So he can put seals up on the screen, he can put them on top of people for mix-ups, he can put them on the screen to stop people approaching him. He has very, very basic tools for every situation. They're not like super strong. I think that's why he isn't like a fan favourite, because he doesn't excel in anything, maybe bar his Oki. But he has tools for everything, and like you said, compared him to Daigo, when he's in your face, he's got really solid buttons. They all have a purpose. A lot of characters in Guilty Gear have buttons that you will just never see. You just never use them. But with Ky, all of his buttons have for use. You just have to understand when you need to use it against what kind of sort of player. If a player is playing passive, you might want to use more stun dippers or overheads or fireball YRCs. For someone who's more aggressive, like you said, you've got the DP. You've also got stun dipper that's got invincibility. So yeah, he's got a button for every situation, and they're all really solid buttons.
So the next character we have is Axl, and this is actually the character I started learning the game on before I even owned it. And this character is very interesting. So he has the Dalsim normals, very long range, but they function very differently. They can all lead into combos if you know exactly what you're doing or you're reacting to what they're doing. So this character allows you to analyze the opponent's neutral quite well. So you'll be seeing how they're trying to approach you, whether it's air dashing or on the ground, and you will be reacting with your long buttons, trying to confirm them into a lot of damage. What's actually really cool about him is I mean, and this is actually the case for a lot of his characters, I think it's worth saying, is he has a lot of easy alternatives to his combos. The difficulty of his combos scales quite nicely. There are some very fundamental things that are a little bit challenging that you have to learn, but you don't have to learn them early on. Very early on, you can be doing very simple stuff and just pick up the game. Like, I literally was playing against, some of the better players in the country in one afternoon of just kind of like, just figuring out which button's which. And that's actually very rewarding. Character has a DP as well, which is always going to be very nice to have as a beginner because you're not thinking too much about mix-ups that are being applied to you. Just DP or not DP, quite an easy decision to make. And he has a thing called Rensen. Now, Rensen is a very interesting projectile. It hits multiple times and it goes through pretty much all other projectiles. So it's kind of like the counter projectile, but it can be cancelled with the YRC, once again, similar to the FADC. And that allows him to then move forward. So you're actually going to be looking at your spacing a lot. You're going to be analysing where you are on the screen, where you want to be. And you're going to be trying to slowly push them into the corner. So you're going to be learning screen control above everything else.
Yeah, I think you hit like the nail on the head there. Axl is basically everything you said he is. I think it's one good thing about him as well. I class him as a scrub killer. Like, for people that don't know the game, I think he does really well against... he exploits people's knowledge of the game. So I would say if you're getting into the game, you lose to an Axl, don't take it to heart. Because his tools basically beat people that don't know when to do stuff like faultless defense or instant block. So if you don't know that and you're losing to an Axl, I wouldn't worry too much. He's definitely one of those characters that you play against to find out how much you know about the game. So it's something that you want to do later on. Once you've kind of understood your own character, that's when you want to start fighting Axls to understand the game. He's really good at doing that. And you've obviously touched upon his Rensen. Again, it's something you need to know about the mechanics of the game. Because knowing that Rensen just like nullifies all projectiles, at first you're going to be like, well, what's happening? Axl's good on both parts. If you want to understand the mechanics of the game, it's quite good to use Axl. And if you're on the other end of that, you will learn what Axl does to manipulate parts of the mechanics of the game.
Definitely. I mean, that's a really, really interesting point. Yeah, Axl is definitely my recommendation. I mean, he's definitely probably not the best character later in the game, where he starts to get very, very challenging, but he is a fun character to pick up for sure. And the next one is Raven, and this is another one of your characters. So go ahead and introduce it.
Yeah, Raven, one of the newer cast members to Exiled Revelator. He's interesting. I picked him because his combos are quite easy. Execution-wise, he's not very taxing. He's a little bit harder than Leo, I would say. But for the most part, it's just chains. And you end with the special of your choosing, really. He's got really cool perks to some of his attacks. So he's got a pin that slows down the opponent's movement. Not their attacks, just their movement. He has a command throw, one for an anti-air, one for the ground. So he's got different tools. Again, maybe to follow how I play Leo, he's got tools to exploit people's tendencies. So when you're applying pressure and you know people want to try and jump away, you've got an anti-air grab to stop that. If you're playing against someone who's very passive and they like to block, you've got a fireball that sits in one spot and hits 4 times. So you can put that on them and then start Oki without having to knock them down. He's one of those characters that looks a lot better when the opponent is really obvious with their blocking tendencies or even their neutral. Another good thing about him is his Oki is really easy. His Oki is super, super easy to do. And even when the opponent knows how to counter that, it's still a strong Oki because, not to go too much into detail, but he can basically set a fireball on top of you. The opponent can wake up and stop that fireball, but you can not throw an attack at to blow up their attempt to stop your Oki. It's really like a rock, paper, scissors sort of character when it comes to knockdown. And that's why I like him. Like I said, with most of the other characters, there's no smokes and mirrors. There's no mystery to what he's doing. It's very clear to see. And yeah, he's got really quirky mechanics that other characters don't have. Like he's got a glide and stuff as well. So yeah, he's a really interesting character.
Yeah, he's definitely a character that you can, if you're interested in like the technical side of things, where you do want to sit in training mode a little bit at the start and just try and kind of try and figure out that mix-up, that Oki, and you want to like learn setups, this is actually a good character kind of to start that sort of journey and not get so deep into it that that's all you're thinking about, but enough to kind of like understand how mix-ups work in this game, if that makes sense. It's not too taxing as well, like you've been saying. It's quite straightforward, and that's a very nice way to put it. It's just like straightforward mix-ups, straightforward neutrals, straightforward combos. It's a really clear character. It's a little bit harder on everything than the other characters we've mentioned, but not substantially. So the next one is Mei, and Mei is a character I have literally no experience against. I occasionally find one online, get banged up, get angry, and stop playing for a while. So if you want to go ahead and explain how this character works to me and everyone else, basically.
She's an interesting character. Like you said, there's not many Mei players, which is really interesting because I think she's really good. She obviously lacks in certain areas when it comes to tools, but she does really good damage. On probably par with Sin, if you can get the right hit and you know how to optimize combos. She's got a quote-unquote scissor kick with her dolphins. She's also got a projectile that lingers on screen, so it's not like a conventional one where it goes in a horizontal or vertical manner. She's quite a small character as well, which is obviously good. Not for your opponent, but for you, because it is quite hard to combo her sometimes. You always have that little glimmer of hope that they might drop the combo. That's always nice, especially when you're learning the game. But like I said, yeah, I think where she shines is her damage. When you get to understand the importance of learning combos in the game, where it's more converting situations rather than how many heavy attacks you can put in a combo, you'll realise that Mei can get a lot of damage off of like erratic or arbitrary hits. It's really cool what she can do. I think that might be the reason why you don't see her that often, just because she does take quite a lot of practice and training to get her at an intermediate level. Where at a beginner's level, it's kind of like, I'm just doing this, I'm doing this. Can you deal with it? You probably can't because you're not used to it.
Yeah, I think the character parallels quite well to like a Balrog. So, like you said, the sort of scissor kick move. It's worth mentioning she is also a charge character. Basically, if it hits you, just insane damage can come off it. And that, as when you started playing Street Fighter and you dealt with like, you know, your Balrogs, your Bisons, your Fei Longs early on, and getting used to someone that can just fucking propel themselves at you from halfway across the screen, it takes a long time of adjustment to get used to it. So you will find it easier just landing those sort of weird hits. But like Mace has been saying, converting off them, that's another thing. That's going to take time. But this is a character that if you do want to challenge your execution, but you don't want to go like absolutely insane with it, this is a character that you might want to start looking at.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, so the last character we have is Sol. And this is the character that, once again, like Ky, gets recommended to every Street Fighter player. But this character is kind of like the highest on our easy character difficulty list, because it requires a understanding of pretty much one very key concept, and we'll briefly touch on that, and that's throw option selects. And this is listed in the tutorials in the games. Go play the tutorials. I know you don't want to do it. I know you think it's just going to be Ryu trying to throw a fire bullet at you and you jumping over it. It's not. It's good. It's really good.
You'll actually learn stuff. It's amazing.
You'll learn so much stuff. But yeah, basically, throw option selects simply are, you press throw, which is your heavy button, and forward, and then you press another button. If you are in range of the throw comes out and you throw them, obviously. Or if you're a little bit further away, then whatever normal you pressed at the same time comes out. You're literally pressing two buttons at the same time and holding forward. It's very, very easy. I know anytime anyone hears option select, their brain just starts freaking out and just seeing visions of Daigo and fucking Takedo, but it's actually not that bad. And the reason why it's so important with this character is he has a very, very quick, good normals that can convert into massive damage. And this is a character that is like, he literally has Cody's forwards strong, which, you know, the gut punch. He has that, and it bounces you off a fucking wall. It's madness. it literally does.
You said there was so much passion. Oh my god.
I've been hit by it so many times. It sucks. But yeah, so this character literally he's gonna be throwing you. He's gonna be playing a lot of Street Fighter style mix-ups. He doesn't have like super complex mix-ups. There's a lot of like throw or not throw, and that when you incorporate the option select into that becomes so devastating. He also has a lot of interesting special attacks. I don't want to get into too much detail on them because there is probably someone that has done a Sol guy specifically that can list them off way better than I can, but they are all have very specific uses. He can get out of a lot of situations with them. He can put you in very bizarre sort of scenarios that you have to then adapt to. He has a lot of tools and a lot of them are very interesting. If you're a person that likes kind of pushing a element of a character to its absolute fullest and like understanding something and kind of like honing in on certain abilities, it's a really interesting character to play. Or if you want to kind of avoid the complexities of guilty gear mix-ups, then this is also a really good character because you've got normal throw, command throw, and overhead, or really good normals. You know, it's just your standard Street Fighter 5 meaty or throw mix-up, and the character has a ton of it.
It's interesting how obviously Sol and Ky obviously call sort of like the shoutouts of the game, but they play so different. They're totally night and day. Where Ky is kind of like a solid jack of all trades, Sol excels in frustrating the opponent. He's very good at making people feel like they can't do much. And obviously you touched upon sort of the throw OSs. That's where his bread and butter lies, really. Even though he's got all these flashy combos that you'll see and all this different movement, he's basically, I'm going to get right in your face. You're either going to press a button to stop me from throwing you, or you're going to block and allow me to throw you. That's pretty much how the character works at a very base level. And it's really interesting because he's really good at it. And sometimes, even when you know like the frame data and stuff, no matter what level you're at, Sols can run through you and make you look like you've just picked up the game. He's just one of those characters.
Yeah, he's definitely a character that functions pretty much the same at a intermediate level as to how he does at a high level, which is quite cool. So you can actually feel, and you know, it's worth mentioning, quite a few of the characters we've spoken about are considered very strong, but Sol is definitely a character that, like, even when you get to a very, like, when you're at that intermediate stage, and then when you're trying to really push yourself a bit further, you're not going to necessarily discover something like brand new and like, oh, this is the thing. He has, like, you know, some very interesting things you can play around with. But past the sort of beginner level, you're really going to be playing Sol already, and then it's going to become down to matchups and knowledge and experience. And so if you actually want like if you're kind of trying to invest a bit of time into this game and really start to understand it and play with like intermediate level players and really just wrap your head around it at a quick pace, this is a cool character to do that with, because you're not going to feel like, you know, you've been kind of going in the wrong direction over time, and then later on you're going to be like, oh, this is what I'm going to be doing. It's literally going to be throw or not throw for a very long period of time. And the character also has really good normals. The character has a sweep which low profiles just about everything, so gets under the actual opponent's attack. He has a really quick far-reaching kick which will hit you in the air and on the ground. It just catches everything. It's super universal. So yeah, this can be a very fun character to pick up and play around with, but definitely going to take a little bit more consideration early on how you're going to play and how you approach neutral. The close-up stuff, very simple. The further away things, they're going to be a bit of a challenge for you.
Yeah, I think you explained him like perfectly. I think it's quite good to obviously just go over how he's kind of the opposite to Axl, where we said Axl's kind of one of those characters at the beginning, he's going to feel really good, and then as you go up the levels, he's going to get harder to use. Where Sol, it's hard to get the beginner level of him. But as soon as you get to intermediate, like we were saying, intermediate and high level, it's very small nuances that you will see that differentiate the two sort of levels. Regards to like doing max damage or gaining more attention, their game plan is basically going to be the same thing. You'll just see them add an extra gun flame in the combo and little small stuff like that shows the gap between intermediate and advanced.
And that is really it. These are the 7 characters that we think you should be looking at when you're starting up this game. If there is nothing that's kind of immediately grabbed your attention, these will give you the sort of breathing room to explore the mechanics of the game and see it as a bigger picture rather than just focusing in on these sort of mechanics that are only very specific to one or two members of the cast. This should help you a little bit, and I want to give a massive thank you to C4IQ coming in here, spreading the good word of Guilty Gear.
Praised be.
Yep, praise be, and hopefully we can convert a few more of you as we go on with the series. Mace will be back, I will be back. Mace, plug all of the things that you do.
I play a lot of non-fighting game stuff now, but if you want to get me on Guilty Gear, follow me on Twitter, MOP_C4IQ. I do a lot of online Guilty Gear lobbies as well for players in the EU. I've got a couple of Leo guides if anyone is that way inclined and want to play this arsehole of a character. Yeah, just find me on Twitter. My YouTube is Situational Damage. I've got some footage of offline match if you want to see me versus TheoryFighter. Hey, you said I could plug, so yeah.
I did. But I mean,
if you want to see some of that, this is where you can find it. It's all good. We're all learning.
Yeah,
we're all learning.
It's true, and I am actually learning this game as well. This is not like I'm not one of those guys that's been about for a million years playing Guilty Gear. Like, we're all learning. It's fine. It's okay to post a 15-minute video of you getting banged up by Slayer players. That's perfectly acceptable.
Mate, you're a bigger man than I.
Yeah, I know.
I cannot do that.
When I posted that, like those hits I received, I was like, wow, I'm really come to peace with this matchup. Before we get too sidetracked, I will be back next weekend, hopefully with C4IQ once again. We'll be going over some new stuff, bring you along on the journey. Play Guilty Gear, guys. It just came out on Steam as well, so pick that up. I hear Humble Bundle are doing a deal for it for $23, something along those lines. Or just go on some like vaguely sketchy site and pick up a key that kind of fell off the back of the lorry. You'll be fine. They probably won't steal your information. Who knows? You're going to find out if that's a mix-up. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Peace.
Peace.